Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. Thank you so much for joining me this morning for tea time. Today we have a little bit of focus, a little bit of misty morning. You know how much I love that zing and that bergamot combination. So good. You can get any of these teas over at darkmoonteas.com. Go check them out. Talking about darkness. I've went to the dark side, guys. I've went to the dark side.
I'll never join you! If you only knew the power of the dark side.
I don't even know how it's happened. I really don't know after 20 years. Well, let me preface all this with simply saying that a few videos ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 videos ago, I think it was titled something like Community Help Me, Help Decide which Black Friday camera I should purchase. Because what I wanted to do is start shooting a primary camera, a secondary camera, and be able to change things up a little bit. And Black Friday is a really good time to do it, right? That's when you get your best sales, your best deals. And anyways, that's what I did. I put a whole list together and I had you guys basically help me decide which ones you think would be best for my use case, right? And the list was as follows. It was a Sony A6100. It was a ZV-1, a M50, which was kind of sweet, the M6 Mark II, another 80D, and that's what I'm shooting over here, that's still shooting, also a 90D, a brand new version of this camera, a FujiFilm X-T3 or a FujiFilm X-T4. Those were the cameras that were on the short list, and you guys gave me a bunch of ideas and what you thought. Well, I ended up buying a camera, and I put a poll out there and say, which one of these cameras do you think that I bought? And funny, no one got it right. I just don't get it. A few of you guys did get it right, but the majority of you came back and said I was going to buy a Canon 90D. Instead of what I did buy, which is the Sony ZV-1. Now, let me just preface all this also with simply, I am not moving 100% over to Sony. I'm still doing all of my professional work on Canon 1Ds, on 5Ds, and for any kind of cinematic work, any kind of filming, I use professional C-series cameras from Canon. That's the C100, 200, 300, 500, depends if we need to do 1080, if we need to do 4K, whatever it is. There's a bunch of reasonings which ones we use, but that's what I end up using. And I have a ton of glass that I've built up, tens of thousands of dollars worth of glass over the last 20 plus years. So a lot of you said, you know, it would just make sense to go with a 90D, and you're probably right, but I didn't. I went with the Sony ZV-1. Now, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to test it out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'll report back to you, but this is what we're using. And the question I'm sure a lot of you will have is, why would this guy who is a Canon shooter go with Sony? Now, you know that I've always been unbiased on this channel, and I don't, let's say, come over as some type of Canon fanboy, as you know, because I'm not. I will shoot any camera that is needed for the specific job. I, for many years, have rented in Hasselblads for a lot of the product work and the higher end fashion work that I do. Why? Well, I needed medium format. Not just I needed medium format, my clients needed medium format because they needed more pixels, bigger pixels, to push around in post-production. I can get into that in another video, but bottom line is they needed it. And that's why I would bring in Hasselblad. So it really didn't matter what the camera is. I've always used whatever it is. It doesn't make a difference. Even though I shoot Canon for my professional video work, which is, like I said, a lot of times a C300, maybe a C500. I also use Panasonic EVA 1s, all right? Not a fan. Why? Autofocus, okay? That being said, that's why we use Canon for the majority of our professional video work. But I digress. The bottom line here is return on investment or value. And I've said this from the very beginning that most of us today are not just looking at what camera does this and this and this, X, Y, Z, but we're also looking at the value. What are we getting out of it for our money? And if we're not getting exactly what we want to get out of it for our money, we won't buy it. All right. We're not in the time that we were 10 years ago where, or let's say 15 years ago, where I'd pick up a 10D, then I'd buy a 20D, and then a 30D and a 40D, and you get it. All right. Whereas it was perpetual. It was like every 6 months, every year, you were buying the next body. Okay. A lot of people don't do that anymore. They buy a body and they stick with it for many years. And that's why the camera companies, or one of the reasons, they're in the predicament that they are. Of course, smartphones and other reasons, but that is one of the major reasons. So ROI, the value. And for what I needed it to do, this camera put a check mark in a lot of those boxes. Now, I originally looked at reviews, just like you would on YouTube, of all these different cameras, all of them, from soup to nuts, and kind of figured out exactly what were all the positives and all the negatives for each camera. And there's no perfect camera, okay? But there is sometimes a perfect camera for the job that you're trying to do. Now, some of the criteria that I had was 4K. All right. I wanted to be able to shoot 4K. Also, I needed to have that fully articulated back panel. I just didn't want to. Not that I couldn't. I didn't want to have a monitor that I would attach to the top of the camera when I could just see myself next to it. It just didn't make sense to me. All right. Because I used Canon for so long and they've always had a fully articulated back panel. It just makes it easy. All right. Why make it harder? And then if I was going to take this camera and go vlog and go walk around outside, I don't want to sit there with a 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch LCD strapped to the top of the camera so I could see what the hell is going on. I don't want it. So it really needed to have a fully articulating back panel, and it did. And then it also needed to do face tracking and eye tracking well. I am just spoiled with Canon's dual pixel AF. Now Canon has dual pixel AF 2. All right. Even better. Well, this camera looked to be able to do that. And now that I've played with it, it does it. It is locked onto my eyes. It just doesn't leave my eyes. And unlike other manufacturers that do this pulsating back and forth and all this nonsense, this doesn't do that I've seen as of yet. So that is really good. It also needed to have a headphone jack, a mic jack to be able to bring in better audio if I need to. And all of these things were available in my final 3, my short list. And that short list was a Fujifilm X-T4, the Canon, of course, 90D, which would be the upgrade to the 80D, which we're still shooting with over here. And of course, this ZV-1. That was the short list. Now, what really stood out with this ZV-1 was that it had the ability to record unlimited time. Now, of course, if the thing overheats, then your unlimited time turns into a limitation, right? But as far as a lot of the reviews that I saw, it was able to record sometimes an hour plus. Okay. That is fantastic for me because many times, as you guys know, I'll get long-winded. Okay. I cut a lot of these videos. I take out a lot of some of the meat, I should say. There's just a lot that I want to talk about. And then later on in post, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to put all that in there. Okay. But I record it anyway. So I want something to be able to record and I shouldn't be on edge and looking at the time. What is the time at? What is it? Oh my God, I have 5 minutes left. I got to wrap it. It's just ridiculous. So being able to record, let's say infinite, that is really helpful, very helpful. And that was a major deciding point. Also, I really did like their product showcase that they have, where you can hold the product up and it would immediately track to the product. And then as soon as you take the product out of the shot, it goes straight back to the eye and face tracking. I thought that was really cool because I want to start doing a little bit more reviews of products and whatnot. So I couldn't stand having to always cover your eyes because Canon will not lock off your face. Okay. If it sees your eyes, your mouth, your nose, your face, it is going to lock on. It's going to lock on hard. It is not going to let go. I mean, even the 80D over there, it's not even looking at me directly in my eyes. And if I look over to it, I could see that it's straight on my face, period. It is not letting go of my face, even when it's a side view. That's just how Canon is. And it's just fantastic when it comes to that. The other thing that I really liked about this camera, this ZV-1, was that I could do a couple of things with it. I could connect a micro USB to it, all right? And through that micro USB, power it. Like right now, I'm not using the battery power. So like I said, I can record unlimited. When I want to take the footage off, instead of taking it off the tripod and all the rest of the stuff, I could simply take that same cable and move it from a powered USB slot on my little brick over to a data power USB slot. And now it immediately recognizes in my computer, and I can download all the footage to the computer. Now, is it that fast? No, it's not. But you know what? It's fast enough without having to take the thing apart all the time like I have to do with the other cameras. Okay, so that was a really cool thing also. Just being able to, if you wanted to, lock it down to wherever you want it, okay, and never have to touch it anymore. And have everything just come straight to your computer with, let's call it a 30-foot USB, micro USB cable if you wanted to. That is really cool. I like that. And a lot of people that are vloggers that have a very small area and they can't constantly move around their camera and go grab it and then just change it up all the time. This is a really great option. I like it. Now, do the other ones do the same kind of thing? I'm not really sure, but this does, and it was a major perk for me. So coming full circle, the right camera for the job. Once again, there's no right camera that does everything right. Okay. There's no camera that does everything perfectly. But if you could find a camera that ticks all of those boxes for all the things that you require, that is the right camera for you. Now, in this case, it wasn't a Canon. All right. It ends up being a Sony. Now, like I said, am I moving to Sony as of yet? No, but this is a major milestone for me. I usually purchase Canon everything. Now, one of the things that we have to also take into consideration here is price. Now, the Fujifilm X-T4 for the body itself was $1,699. Let's call it $1,700. With a lens, let's make it $1,800. Okay, $1,800 for Fuji. If I went with a Canon 90D, even if I picked up refurbished, we're looking at $1,150, $1,200 for that camera. But, of course, I had lenses for it. So it would be $1,200, let's say, and that's it. That's my investment. Not bad. Well, the ZV-1 was $799, okay, retail. Then during Black Friday, I found it for $698 for that camera. And then last minute, I found one unit brand new from another company for $594. Brand new. I'm looking at it, $594. All of those check marks checked. Why would I go spend 3 times more for Fuji, more than twice for the Canon? It just doesn't make sense. Once again, back to value and ROI. Is it doing what I need it to do? Yes or no? Well, as of right now, yes. Now, like I said, in a week or two, will this change? I'll do an update. We'll see. But as of right now, it's doing what it needs to do. Now, a lot of people would say, wait a second, you only have one lens. Right? Whereas with the other ones, you can change your lenses. That is right. So while it is a negative, because it's cool to be able to switch out those lenses whenever you need to, bring something in super wide or tighten it up or whatever you want to do, maybe throw a macro on it and do some video with macro, whatever, that's okay. But there's a benefit to not having any lenses either. What is that benefit? Well, this has a Zeiss piece of glass on it. Zeiss is probably about the best German optics that you're going to get. Number 2, the lens itself is a 1.8 to 2.8 variable. So what that means is if I keep it on the widest setting, I'll get 1.8 out of it. Now, is it a full frame 1.8? No, because it's a smaller sensor. So you're going to see a little bit more in focus behind me. But I can take this camera anywhere because when I shut it down, it closes up and it turns into literally a box of cigarettes. Okay. It's so small. And being able to just use it like this and get to know it and figure out how to do it properly, it just simply works. I'm literally right now using the ND filter built into it to be able to get these settings the way they are. Now, one of the things that I didn't like about the camera is that, now, if I'm wrong here, let me know. Remember, I'm just starting to use it. Is that if I have the camera set to fully manual, because that's how I shoot. I don't shoot auto nothing. Okay. If I set the camera to fully manual, it will not eye track. It'll face track or zone track, but it will not eye track. I have to put the camera into something auto. So it would have to be shutter priority. It would have to be aperture priority, ISO, auto ISO, something for it to start doing the eye tracking. Now, if I can eye track in manual, let me know how. Okay. I don't see how I can do it, but in so doing, I was kind of blown out a little bit. I'm like, God, how am I going to fix this? And I'm like, well, there's an ND filter in here, right? Threw on the ND filter and here you go. I fixed it. Now I can shoot at f1.8 at a 60th of a second because right now we're shooting at 30p at 4K. And get it right, exactly how I want it. So there's always things you can do. There's workarounds. When you are a professional photographer, I tell a lot of people this, and some of them believe me, some of them don't. When you're a professional photographer, all right, you can make anything work. And the reason being is you understand the principles behind what is going on. The folks out there that are shooting auto, P for professional, as I call it, I joke around about, they don't get it. Some of the people that shoot aperture priority, they don't get it either. They throw it on A and they're like, yeah, okay, we're good. You know, we'll throw that aperture the way we want it and let it do whatever it wants to do. No, don't let it do whatever it wants to do. Dial it in the way you want it. Shoot manual. If you don't know how to do it, learn. Okay, just simply learn. It's the idea, like I said, of knowing the camera and knowing photography, knowing what you can change, how to change it, and if you could change it with the specific unit that you're using. And I found that using ND, I can change everything to get it just the way I want it. So going forward, am I going to start looking at Sonys for my professional work? Well, probably not, but I am now going to look a little bit closer to what Sony's doing with their new professional grade cameras as they come out. Like I will seriously look at what the new A9 is going to do. How is it going to work? What's going on with it in comparison to my 1D? Okay. So I will look at some of their cameras a little bit more closely. Why? Because now I actually have a Sony camera that I'm using and it's working really well. Like I said, is that going to be the case in a week, in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks? I don't know. I will report back. But as of right now, the way I have it set up, this over here is my Canon. I still love it. It's tracking me absolutely perfect. As you can tell, I have the dark area here because the lighting is coming from the front, which is okay, but it's tracking me dead on. I actually like, guys, the color on this Sony ZV-1 better than the Canon right now. All right. Now, is that because of profiling? I don't know. I'm going to get in there and start dialing it in. I haven't done anything with this as of yet. Now, let me just tell you one other thing. This is very important. I originally thought of doing this because I wanted to start shooting 4K. Well, the last video that I did, I shot in 4K, right? The problem is, guys, there's not an issue when it comes to my computer. The computer has absolutely no issue. I built it from scratch. It is a Ryzen setup. It's really built well. And it can handle probably up to 8K. It is fast. Everything in it is built the way it needs to be. So editing the footage is no problem. Is there a slight slowdown in comparison to editing 1080p? Of course, but very little, and you can fully edit with it without even thinking about it and without having to process that video before editing. I can throw it straight into the package that I'm using, which is DaVinci Resolve, and have no problem with it. That's great. The problem comes is on export. Instead of me normally exporting at like 120 frames per second, just fast, it will literally export in like 15 minutes, a 30-minute video. It was exporting at like, I think it was like 15 or 20 or 30 frames per second. Like 4 times slower. I'm like, oh my God. So what was supposed to be like 20 minutes for export literally took like, I don't know, an hour and a half or something. It took forever. I'm like, oh my God, this isn't good. So I'm like, all right. Now, normally guys, what I'll do is I'll take that footage that is now, let's say a 13 gig file, and I'll throw it into Handbrake, and I will crunch the crap out of it. Crunch the crap, crunch, smash the crap out of it. Okay. Shrink it. So instead of like 13 gigabytes, I'll smash it down to like 400 megabytes, 500 megabytes. And most of you guys don't see any type of loss in resolution. Well, I did the exact same thing with the last video. I took that 4K that was, let's say 13 gigabytes. It went down to 1.3 gigabytes, which is great. But 1.3 gigabytes is, once again, like 4 times bigger than the size of the normal files that I'm uploading. So that means what? It takes 4 times as long to upload them to YouTube. So it's 4 times longer on export, 4 times long on compression, 4 times long on upload. I'm like 4 times and 4 times and 4 times. It's like, so now if I do 4K for you guys, it's going to take me a day to get a video out. Whereas normally I can shoot first thing in the morning when I roll up into the studio, I'll shoot and then I'll edit for a couple hours, have it up in the cloud. Before lunch, you guys have the video. Well, that wouldn't happen with 4K. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I want you guys to do me a favor. 2 things. Number 1, do you believe, as I've said in the past, and I think it's probably the case, YouTube prioritizes 4K footage over 1080 today, as of right now? I know at the beginning, when they first came out, they did. Are they doing that right now? You let me know. And secondly, do you think that 4K for this channel is really needed? Do you think I should be doing it in 4K and just simply move forward in 4K? Or do you think that I should be doing 1080 and that's it? And simply do a 2-camera setup, but at 1080 instead of 4K. I want to know your thoughts. All right. You guys are very important to me. I do this for you, and what you think really does sway me one way or another. Okay. So anyways, guys, I've run on a bunch. Once again, moved into the dark side, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably shocked according to those polls. Even though you guys didn't get it right, I am going to schedule some type of live something to come up before the holidays. So watch for that. I want to just be able to hang out with you guys and discuss stuff and just maybe just shoot it. Do like a Q&A type of thing and ask me anything or something like that. Also, if you haven't downloaded my ebook as of yet, go check it out over at JCristina.com/ebook. Once again, JCristina.com/ebook. 10 tips at making tack sharp images, something for amateurs, for pro-ams, for professionals. Go pick it up. It's free, guys. It's free. What's better than free, right? So go ahead and do that. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. If you like this content, even in the least, click this little bell notification button over here. So whenever I do go live or when a new video comes out, you're notified of it immediately. Also, we have the join button right down here under every single video. Okay. Please join the channel. Offer up that simple $1, $2, whatever it is per month and help out the channel. That would really be appreciated. And this is a way that I can give those members that have joined some perks here and there, a little bit of extras that I'm constantly thinking about what I can do for you guys. And finally, if you haven't went over to our creative Discord server, go check it out. It's free. Go to community.jcristina.com. Once again, community.jcristina.com. There's a lot of brilliant people over there. It's a no troll zone, just like this channel. You don't see any trolls in the comments. I don't care. Go look at any video. You're not going to see any trolls in any of them, unlike a lot of channels that you see out there. I feel very blessed by that. Anyways, many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy.